Alrighty, hello, good evening. It is Thursday, the 25th of September. We are recording our squad show as your Port Adelaide Footy Club is getting ready to take on the St Kilda Saints over in Melbourne on a Sunday afternoon, a little 12:35 p.m. kickoff. A nice one for anyone nursing a men's grand final day hangover. Just settle in and hopefully watch our Port Adelaide ladies get a W, a much, much needed W as well. Good evening, Jamie. The changes have, before we actually get into them, the changes have been rung this week. It's quite a significant list of ins for both sides, actually. This is an extended squad, though, so we will see a few of these players drop out into the emergencies. Good evening, mate.
Hello, how are you?
Feeling better than the other night, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, you sound a lot better.
Yeah, I'm not dying currently, so that's a plus. Yeah, a lot of changes this week. Some very, very welcome
Yeah.
ones as well.
Oh yeah. We've been counting down the days until Piper Window's return, and here we are. Um, Interesting on our side of the fence still. Jasmine Evans limited time on ground last game, and only the couple of possessions. It's a bit of last one in, first one out. Alyssa Brooke is an interesting call. They
Mm.
obviously feel like we're a bit too tall down back. Or maybe to rephrase it, we could probably manage with a Borg and Jermac kind of tall
Mm.
defender proposition, and then with Hammond coming off of a pocket, a flank, and even rotating through the wing at stages last year. Um, so yeah, the extended lists make it look extravagant,
Mm.
but I think it'll be fairly simple once it comes to tomorrow afternoon. On the other side of things, though, yeah, they've had a few changes. I think a couple of them were forced from what I saw earlier. It's not on my screen now, but uh, Janome Anderson for one of them has been one of their better players this
Mm.
season so far. So a pretty big out for them heading into this game, which leaves it very evenly poised, in my opinion.
Yeah, it certainly does. I was looking a little bit at the team stats earlier, and just a few things comparative between the sides, and there's certainly probably a lot closer in comparison points than some of the stats across the season so far between these sides. Just back to our ins and outs. Yeah, the Alyssa Brook one's interesting because I've been wondering about the likes of her and Chloe Gaunt in the side, just with maybe a little bit of too much height and not enough, speed of movement, I guess, and maybe they're trying to, with some of the players that are coming back in, likes of Cheyenne Hammond, just a little bit more speed on the ball, and because teams are handballing around and getting passes. Sometimes when those two, I think Alyssa Brooks actually does okay, which in some of those aspects
Mm.
of handling the ball, but I think they really want. I probably would have been skeptical about Gaunt's continued run on the side, just how we're playing at the moment. Not that I don't see her as a viable option, but just how we're playing. We're just playing past her at the moment, and not really. She's only
Mm.
getting a couple of hit outs a game, a couple of
Yeah, I
disposals.
was going to say, I think her few chop outs in the ruck is basically that fine line that's keeping her in
Exactly.
rather than having a spell.
Hmm. And that's what I think, maybe but the side probably couldn't carry both her and Brooke. And um, maybe that's where they're going, particularly bringing a few handy kind of more inside play. I mean, we're going to be really stacked suddenly getting really stacked in the midfield. I mean, when you see the likes of the bench as it's currently reads is how the team's named. As we know, it won't stay that way as far as who takes the field for sure. But yeah, when you see the likes of Piper Window and Kirsty Lamb both named on the bench in
Indy
respect
Tahoe.
to and Indy
But
Tahoe,
yeah,
yeah,
you're speaking from a midfield point of
yeah,
view, aren't you?
we,
Yeah.
we're getting some real stock in there now. Um, so yeah, I feel. I mean, just since we're getting to do an extended squad show tonight because we don't have the locked in side yet. Who are you feeling out of those might not quite make the side? Because there's a fair bit of talent sitting on there, and you assume the emergencies are going to come from those on the interchange bench. So that kind of with Jasmine Soden's come into the side, and she's actually been named in the forward line as the sheet has been given to us tonight. Same with Cheyenne Hammond coming
Yes,
into
good
this.
pickup by you.
Yeah, well, that's what I was interested in because kind of immediately was like, I'm going to look at the
Mm.
interchange and who, assuming that the three that will drop out of the interchange will be from the interchange. Um, it is interesting that Soden's been named straight into the forward line. Cheyenne Hammond, probably a bit more predictable, straight back into the halfback line, but would have thought maybe they'd be teasing with Soden as a possible, but maybe they've guaranteed she's in the side based on how I read how they release these things. Which
Hmm.
leaves a few names. I mean, Jasmine Stewart's been named, but does she just stay as an emergency? Caitlin Pope, I think, did some good things last week. Does she survive? She's on the bench. Lily Patterson. And then you sit there and go, well, Indy Tahoe, Piper Window are both guaranteed. They're not playing if they're fit. So those are excused. You think Kirsty Lamb makes it, but then again, we are getting more stacked, and she's probably been a little bit more in and out of the central rotation than I would have expected.
Yeah, and I think her minutes have been limited.
Yes.
From if just off the top of my head, I know she did her hamstring, and I know that she was had a niggle like prior to the start of the season or around the start of the season. So she may actually be carrying something, Kirsty
Mm.
Lamb. But with what you've just said, with Southern being named on a forward pocket or a full forward line of two,
Yeah.
as it is in the AFLW, I think the call on Chloe Gaunt might come.
That's what I've been
Um,
wondering. Like, do we just go?
like you said it like in relation to Alyssa Brooke in the back line, they're obviously mulling that one over.
Mm.
They don't want to make the call on the three changes just yet. They've, um, for all intents and purposes, made two. But yeah, I imagine out of the listed bench of eight, Windows staying, Tahoe staying, Pope's staying, O'Day's staying, and Lamb is staying for mine because I think that Loz Arnell is craving a bit of senior leadership to
Yeah.
help get the girls off to a good start, but maintain the focus. And I think dropping a Lamb, I mean, obviously that's why Hammond is coming back, and I think um, Lauren Arnell is keen to get her back in amongst it for some of that senior leadership
Mm.
and fluency in the contest. And I can't imagine they'll be dropping Lamb as a like in that same breath. So Patterson, Stewart, and then Gaunt are the three that are left to come off that bench, and that would mean that that's three changes for the game. So a bit of speculation fun.
Mm.
But yeah, perhaps they feel with Lauren Young coming in as a tallish forward, maybe we'll see Woodland pinch hit in the ruck, as she's been around the centre, and that would free up, that would give Schultz a spell. And as we know, Schultz doesn't need too many spells. She's playing upward of 90% plus time on ground. Obviously, forward time is mixed in with that.
Mm.
But maybe they feel that they can just use a chop out ruck coming out of one of our tools. Obviously, I wouldn't be taking any tools from the back now that they've dropped Brooke. So it would leave a Woodland who has done a bit of it, to be honest, over the last year and a half, season and a half. Um, if in fact they do drop Gaunt.
Mm. And St Kilda seem to have a bit of a ruck by committee. Like they've got two rucks in their side, obviously in their extended bench as well. Like Rebecca Ott's name, she averages 11 hitouts a game, and then Renee Karas, who's on their interchange, averages 10 hitouts a game. So they don't really have a dominant lead ruck, based on how I read those stats. Like for the year, that each of them are kind of more or less chopping out in the hitouts. And they're averaging, I think 16 a game or something along those lines. If I get back to my 19 a game versus our 24 and a half, so uh, there is probably a little bit of a dominance that we can, not a dominance, but an edge to our ruck game anyway. That is predominantly given by the performance of Matilda Scholes. As we said, as much as we like Chloe Gaunt's, efforts so far, she just isn't getting enough time in the ruck to really have an impact. And so I think we can ruck by committee. I think even in Indy Tahoe's taken a hit out or two this year. I think if I looked at the stats, I looked
Yeah,
we
I'm
do
just
average some hit
while you're
outs. And
talking, I'm just sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
go for
just
it.
kind of running through some of the heights of our side and um yeah, I mean our taller players are all nudging the 178, 179 outside of Schultz and Gaunt this
Mm,
is. So it would be a real pinch hit, probably more of a focus on a ground ball
Hmm.
When we're talking of a second ruck situation, which, don't want to get too caught up on it because it won't come around often. Although St Kilda, like you said, will be rotating a couple through there based on um, how they've been going this season statistically, and then, as you said, the team selection wise. But uh, yeah, it may come down to, or maybe it'll be a Borg if the ball's in the back line for a chop out, and then a Woodland for maybe centre forward,
Hmm.
um, provided the situation is that Schultz is having a break from ruck duties, but she'll
Yeah.
take the lion's share of it like she usually does, and she'll probably do quite well, to
Hmm.
to put it mildly and to make an understatement of the century. Um, so, because Ott and Karis are 185-ish each.
Hmm.
And then when you put in Jesse Wardlaw, one of their forwards, who's 185 as well, perhaps we are looking to maybe be a bit quicker on at ground level.
Hmm. Because we've been,
Um,
I think that's been somewhere where we're really needing to find some kind of evening up of the playing field, and against a side that does utilize have. We're finally playing a side that's probably a bit closer to us in disposals per game. Like the last few weeks, we've been playing sides that average 60, 70 disposals more, and during those games has kind of more or less had those numbers. St Kilda are closer to that. Like we're at 221 and a half for the year so far. St Kilda just a shade under 235. So, an average, 14 disposals and some change, or give or take some change there. So we're playing a side
mhm.
that probably plays, has a little bit less of the ball. As far as the clearance numbers go, some of the other numbers are a bit closer as well. I think turnovers might still be in their favour. So that's going to be, but again, like last week, we kind of mitigated the turnover difference and a few other things. We were just really pressure was one of the things that let us down last week, and we almost beat a
Yeah,
decent Geelong side. So can mitigate that turnover difference and keep that kind of disposal average pretty similar, I think will be a good shake of it. And particularly, as you kind of noted, if we do go for a little bit more speed on the ball and sacrifice some of that height, but I don't think that's going to be. I don't think the height's been a major advantage for us. Having, unfortunately, with the way we've been playing, Chloe Gaunt hasn't. We're not playing to the strengths of a Chloe Gaunt as a second ruck out there, and so we need to look at a different style of slightly adjusting some of those things to try to get the result because it's not gonna that unfortunately Chloe Gaunt stats aren't going to be drastically missed. She's probably you have her as an emergency obviously, but yeah,
yeah, for sure.
it's just if Miss
Just
Taylor
in
Schultz is
case.
fit. um, it is a fascinating. It is with all those changes and ins and outs possible. It is a fascinating possible change in playing style. Not a massive change, really. It's just an adjustment in the personnel to aid and abet us doing a little bit better in transitioning the ball and maybe being able to get it down the field quicker and take advantage of get some forward. Like our forward, once we get the ball in forward, we've actually been okay over the last few weeks. It's just been
Hmm.
actually getting it down there, which has been sometimes the fault of having a bit too much immobile stuff around the field has not aided that. So a few of these players coming in can definitely kind of help change that in our advantage.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So a little bit more speed in offense is a nice change if they're going to share it around a bit. Obviously, if we're grabbing and dump kicking
Mm,
as we tend to do as stages, then that extra speed on the ball may not count for much. Maybe more setting up for forward half pressure
mm,
if the ball does go through for a behind or it does get turnover deep in our forward line. Because yeah, with the disposals, while it is closer, it's still handballs are the thing that really
yeah, yeah.
are the major difference out of the kicks and handballs. We average nearly 20 more kicks than them, so they're at handball. But I noticed that they're hot on tackles as well.
Yeah.
They're averaging 85, nearly 86, and we're averaging 68.
Mm,
So I think that when we talk about, we've spoken a few times about not just being able to pull 60 handballs out of our asses to change that style of play or change the way we move the ball. That's not going to happen. But I think bridging that gap in tackles is definitely something that we can change because I feel
mm,
that our number currently is unders, and a lot of that is due to topics that Loz Arnell's brought up, we've brought up. It's just that lack of pressure in stages.
Mm.
But we all know that when it's in the spot that it needs to be, that's how we can best win a game of football or get the game on our terms and then kind of dictate how the game goes from there. In our couple of wins so far this season, um, that's been the cornerstone of it. And yeah, we talk about it until we're blue in the face. It is the cornerstone of how Port Adelaide wants to play in the AFLW. So they need to bring it, and they need to bring it from the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that will like definitely aid us, and that is like the return of Piper Window. For one, I was
Hmm.
trying to look up the tackle numbers of because I'm pretty sure we looked at Lauren Young led our tackles last week in her first game as well. I was pretty sure we talked about that on Tuesday. I was just double checking,
We
like
did.
going back to my stats sheet from Tuesday's show. But yeah, Lauren Young, that's 7 tackles. Piper Window's going to bring some tackles. Cheyenne Hammond certainly isn't shy with her pressure game as well when she's up and about.
Yeah,
So, like, there's a significant kind of change if all three of those are playing and on song as well. So, yeah, you can kind of see where that can start to shift and maybe where they're trying to, those players. Obviously, Piper Window is coming back in regardless of what our season situation was going to be, but
mm.
she's just a clear talent. But she's going to,
And grab the 6 clearances just as a
yeah,
aside. She'll actually be able to contribute to that average, and hopefully it stays the same, if not improves.
yeah.
Um, but handy, like you said, from a pressure point of view, having some of those pillars in place definitely points us in the right direction.
Even just rotationally, just having more strength on the bench throughout the
Hmm.
game when you're resting. If Kirsty Lamb does play and she's only getting 60% game time, when she's resting and windows on or windows off and Lamb's in rather than whoever has been, like there's a when you're getting that strength in numbers back as far as just depth goes on your bench for your rotations, you don't,
100%.
yeah, you're just not losing as much when you're resting your
Mm.
keys on the bench. So that's going to be very, very helpful as well. Uh, how are you feeling overall about this one result wise? I'm quietly confident. I don't know if it's just looking at St Kilda's results because I mean, just to quickly, I think we touched on it the other day, but we can I'll have a quick look at their results again throughout this year because it's a real interesting bag because they started off the year with a 22-point win over the Crows, but then they backed that up with a 74-point loss to Melbourne, who obviously we know what we did to Melbourne just a couple of weeks ago. Then they
Hmm.
lose to the Eagles by 14 points at home as well. Then they lose to Hawthorn by 23 points up in Cairns. But then in the last couple of weeks, they've put a beat down on Essendon by 52 points and then a win over a struggling Richmond side by just 7 points
Richmond.
last week. So,
Mm.
look, a 52-point win over Essendon, regardless of what you think about Essendon, is a good win because you're putting the hurt on a bad team. Like that's what we did to Gold Coast. That's what if you think
Hmm.
you're a decent team, you do that. But then you're maybe expecting them to do better against Richmond last weekend, and then obviously the getting absolutely pantsed by Melbourne, who maybe have just started the season in really hot form and have tapered off. We don't know, but it's a real mixed bag of results. You don't know exactly what to take out of that, particularly the fact they did beat the Crows to open up the season as well. But uh, this is a St Kilda side that has also shown to be poor at times this year as well. So, but
Yeah,
with our ins coming back in, I'm feeling a little quiet degree of confidence because I think Arnell will have probably stuck the needle in a bit this week about you guys need to start. This inconsistency needs to stop, and the names coming
yeah.
back in. The names coming back in are like exactly what she needs.
100%. Yeah, yeah. There's obviously no mid pre-finals buy or anything in between in the AFLW, but we're halfway through the minor round. So, sometimes at the buy in the men's season, you kind of either, you look to push ahead on a good start to the year, or you look to rectify a few things and bounce back from a poor start to the season. And that's where we are. We've got our best available squad on paper, barring the injuries to JC, Wendland, and Julia Teakle. So this is where we should be setting a platform to really attack the last 6 games of the season. I haven't looked too far ahead. I know our next few games, and they're all we're in with a shot with all of them, particularly Western Bulldogs next game, obviously
Mhm.
drawing forward by 1 week. But um, yeah, I'm confident the bookies have got us favourites marginally as of about half an hour ago, on Thursday the 25th. So which is surprising, being an away fixture. So obviously with the machinations of St Kilda's side, they've got their guns. Every club that we come up against has a few noteworthy players. Tiana Smith for St Kilda is top five for a couple of key statistics in the competition,
Mhm.
such as clearances and I believe tackles. Um, so she's averaging 93 fantasy points, which I think in AFLW season is a bit more of a truer reflection
Yeah.
of performance and output. Um, then they've got a couple of others. Serene Watson was in the All-Australian squad last year and is averaging 21 and a half possessions this season. So, Wardlaw, I mentioned before, she's a big presence down forward. So Emily Ball's going to have her work cut out for us. So
Mhm.
there's a few things to keep us occupied. But to answer your question, I'm confident. I'm just as confident as I was heading into Geelong. And I mean, sans a poor umpiring decision at the end and a very poor first quarter on our behalf, we win that game. So it's not too dissimilar in this instance. It's a team there and thereabouts to where we are that we want to obviously overtake. It's a team that we have a fairly decent record against.
Mhm.
Um, so I think we should go in with a lot of confidence. And what you said about Lauren Arnell pushing the needle in and giving him a fair rev up this week, I totally agree with that. Um, I think that would have happened. Of course, we probably expect it to happen. And I hope that they respond. And I'm confident that they can respond because it's kind of how we've been going a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned inconsistency. We have been flip-flopping the last 5 weeks between win and loss. But I do also expect it to happen with the names that we've got on paper,
Mhm.
and the strength of the squad, the bench depth that you mentioned. And that's probably what the bookies are seeing as well.
Mhm. Yeah, we need to clunk some marks down forward, like Gemma Houghton, probably like a big
Yeah,
chance for
just
her to
secure it in
return.
there, Gemma.
Yeah,
Get the barometer up and about early.
absolutely. Yeah, if she can kick a goal and have a few of those moments in the first opening quarter, then we'll probably be on for a decent game. Um,
How did good do you how like yeah how yeah it's almost a sign of safety, or it was last year.
oh yeah.
Gemma Houghton was up and about early. Yeah, you just got a few tingles in the fingers, and
Hmm.
yeah, you
Yeah.
knew she was definitely in for a good shift. And like we mentioned on Tuesday, everyone kind of just feeds off of that energy.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, with that midfield hopefully being a little bit stronger and a little bit more depth, just keep the kind of wheels turning. Keep that a little bit because a few of the times that Geelong got forward last week was just out of some like kind of lack of pressure in the middle and allowing them to walk the ball into a kind of forward on the lead a little bit too easy, like as we're out of structure a little bit. Like when we're structured up and the ball's not coming in easy for the opposition, Geelong were really struggling to score up until they got a little bit of a hand at
Hmm.
the end. So when we're up and about, we can do a decent job of kind of mitigating the damage. Maybe it'll go forward a bit, and you kind of there's a little bit of chaos ball involved, but yeah, if we can that midfield group with all that depth that's coming back into it can kind of keep it even there, and against a team that probably doesn't have quite. They've got some stars there for sure, but just like they're not accumulating nearly as much ball either as some of our opponents have in previous.
Yeah, exactly. It's something I noticed leading into this episode is just how evenly matched some of the top end players are across the two sides.
Yeah,
It's not like we have a Darrick or a Schultz, and then three or four St Kilda players above them as the better performers of on average so far this season. It's a bit more mixed in between our best performers and their best performers, which is a nice sign
yeah,
as well.
yeah. Pretty incredible that Serene Watson averaging 21 and a half disposals, going at almost 80% disposal efficiency on the year as well. That's very, very good stuff. So that'll be one to
Yeah.
watch and to try to mitigate that a little bit. Keep them to
Mm.
those numbers or less, and I think we'll be doing a fairly good job on the day. So yeah, I'm hoping we can come away with it'd be nice to come away with just a cut our wins apart from the Gold Coast win, the other win this year has been a real tight one. We've had a lot of tight
Yeah.
games that we've just fallen just short. It'd be nice to actually come away with, even if it's just a couple of goal win, and kind of hold them at arm's length. down the stretch of the game would be really really nice. Which I think we can manage. I think if we
Yeah,
put a four
absolutely.
quarter effort together, as you said, that Geelong game was really that first quarter. That 10-point gap was really only the first quarter. It kind of bridged and then was back and forth for the rest of the game. So if we can put a four quarter
Yeah.
effort down, we'll go a long way to maybe giving ourselves that kind of couple of goal arm length lead going into the last quarter, and hopefully we can run the game out, which I think we've been starting to do better lately as well. The game running out stuff still a little bit. It's a little bit more just I think of some maturity on game day as well. That's
It
still building.
it's a kind of one or the other from my perspective. It's either a slow start or a poor finish. Yeah, it seems to be if we have one, yeah, the other one drops off and vice versa. Because yeah, the Melbourne game while we won, the fourth quarter was pretty tight and they definitely won
Stressful.
that last quarter. So.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So even if we do start well, by three-quarter time, we want to hope that we've got a fairly decent lead,
Mm.
because I don't know if we've proven that we can run over the top of anyone, unless it is a Gold Coast or a potentially GWS, who I'm not sure if we even played this year. We may,
Do in
but
the last round, I'm pretty sure. It's
right,
where I've
we
seen
played him
people.
in the last round last year, didn't
Yeah, to
we?
make finals. Yeah, Gemma Houghton. Yeah,
To get the home final, yeah, and
yeah.
Gemma Houghton, oh, what a play. We want more of that.
Yes, we
Want
do.
more of that. What I do want less of though is Goody being a tagger.
Hmm.
I want more of the ball in her hands more often. Because again, um, for us to have that offensive flair and to provide good quality opportunities to our forwards, sorry. Um, her getting her hands on the ball is paramount to our success, I think, in conjunction with some of the other things we said, particularly if, say, um, Woodland is pinch hitting and ruck, and there's that spot there,
Hmm.
the bench depth that you mentioned before
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with that notion.
Yeah, it'll be a fascinating week for the kind of midfield rotation stuff, and particularly, I mean, center clearances is an area that we do have some statistical, fair statistical dominance on. St Kilda in the season stats, it's around the stoppage that they've got a little bit more flair for it. So, but with the likes of window and stuff coming back in as well, there's some stuff that like the season stats can
Mm.
start to shift based on the people that are coming back into our side this week. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think we can win this one. To your point about the finishes as well, I was just thinking about when you talked about the Melbourne one. We also had a questionable umpiring call towards the end of
Oh,
that game
yeah,
as
that's
well that
right.
got that
Yeah,
within the goal. So we need to get ourselves up by 2 or 3 goals to mitigate that stuff because
some poor
we
decisions.
weren't up
Yeah.
by far enough. Because that's the thing is like we get pissed off at the umpiring calls, but the fact is you can do the if you do some work prior to that, you can mitigate the damage that an umpire can do with a call. You don't want to be in the position that an umpire can make a game defining call. You don't want them to make them anyway, but the best defense against that is kick a couple more goals and keep them at bay, which
Mm.
just worked against Melbourne and unfortunately didn't work against Geelong. So yeah, we don't want to be in that. It's annoying that umpires make those calls, but just like we say in a lot of other when a certain other team in Adelaide was dealing with that a couple of years ago on the men's side, just don't be 40 points down at one point, and you won't have to deal with
Yeah, yeah,
it.
exactly.
And that's
Yeah,
the same.
or 40 points up and let it squander.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
so yeah,
yeah.
we can mitigate that damage by just doing some more to put ourselves in a more dominant position earlier in the game. So hopefully that can start this weekend. Yeah. Anything else in this one, Jamie? We're just looking forward to getting to the weekend.
Oh, definitely looking forward to it. Obviously, it's a big weekend, and
Mm,
yeah, the girls will be in Melbourne for grand final weekend.
yeah.
So that'll be interesting for them. But yeah, at the end of the day, in regards to this game, I'm confident that we can win. I hope we win, because we desperately need those 4 points if we're to do anything this season. So, ups to them and good luck.
Absolutely. Speaking of grand final stuff, we're going to stick around for the Patreon listeners. So if you're listening to this on Patreon, keep the episode going. We'll be back in a moment to talk about just our grand final thoughts, as well as some thoughts on the Brownlow and whatnot that's happened in the last week. All topical stuff. If you're not listening on Patreon, you're listening to this on the main feeds, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. Thank you for listening. We do appreciate your support. But if you want to listen to the rest of the episode, jump over to Patreon because that's where the rest of it will be. $5.99 a month. Less than a couple of iced coffees at OTR a month. So
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And it just does help us, cover the cost of the podcast and whatnot. So it's appreciated by those that already do, and anyone else that wants to jump on and support. It's really not that much at all, but we certainly know that times are tough out there. So we appreciate your support no matter what. That's why we like bringing the podcast to you every week, regardless. So thank you. We'll kick on over to Patreon and keep chatting in a moment.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.